And that's really what it's all about, is trusting ourselves to make the right decisions. Maybe you're someone that always makes the wrong decisions and you don't do it on purpose. You think that you're doing the right thing, but you're always picking the wrong relationships. You're always picking the wrong friends. You're always picking the wrong jobs. Hi, I'm Ashleigh, and welcome to the Big Crystal Energy Podcast. This is a place for the crystal curious, arcane-minded, and everything in the in-between. In this podcast, we will jump down the rabbit hole into the metaphysical, esoteric, occult, and spiritual realms. Nothing is off limits. I'm a mom, wife, an orthopedic physician assistant by day, and a seeker of all things spooky and kooky by night. I've spent my entire career in the medical field, but have always felt like there is more out there, and this is where we will explore together. We will have conversations with crystal healers, rock hounds, artists, musicians, spiritual coaches, magic makers, and anything woo-woo that strikes our fancy. Let's take our spiritual journey to the next level. So grab a crystal, pour a cup of tea. It's time to feel the big crystal energy. Hello, and welcome back to the Big Crystal Energy Podcast. I am Ashleigh, and I am so thrilled to have you here with me today. I am going to be talking about something that is extremely near and dear to my heart, because I think it's something that is very important for all of us, and it's something that we not often listen to, and that is our intuition. Intuition, it's my word of 2025, because I feel like it's something that I talk about all the time, but it's something that I want to get better at and something that I want to tap into. And that's what I'm bringing for you today. Intuition. I feel like it's a beautiful time of year for that too, because as the seasons are changing, we just feel that shift in the air and that inner knowing that maybe things are changing and, we can level up, we can do different things with our lives. And this is the episode for you. If you are feeling that pull, if you are feeling like you want to connect with your thoughts and yourself a little bit more, I think that it's going to be a beautiful chat, and I can't wait to hear what you think. But before we get started, I always love to start these solo episodes with what is bringing me big crystal energy this week. Well, let me tell you, big news, exciting news. I'm not sure when this episode will air, but whether it airs in a few weeks or a month or whatnot, you may be noticing some changes around here. And that is because I am getting some help with the podcast. I have been trying my hardest to do everything myself, but as a busy working mom and a wife, and I'm trying to do all the things, it's very challenging. So I am getting some help with the podcast, with editing and just some different things. And I think that it will elevate this to a whole new level. And I'm so excited. It just makes me feel really joyous, because now I can spend my time and attention just focusing on the podcast, putting together episodes, connecting with listeners and getting feedback and all of those things. And I don't have to worry so much about the technical stuff, because while I have been doing it myself, it's just not always my cup of tea. I like it a little bit, but it's time consuming, and I want to focus on the fun stuff. I want to focus on the stuff that is what you're here for, the content, the talks, the interviews, and just getting all that stuff set up. So I am just super excited, and I feel very grateful that I'm getting to the point where I feel like I can start elevating this podcast, because this is my baby. I love doing this. I love chatting with people that are connecting with the episodes. I love coming up with different ideas, and it's just been such a dream. Especially, I feel like with the way that I'm going with the podcast, I feel like it's so much more aligned with who I am as a person. It's already developing. We're almost at our 1-year anniversary, and I just feel like I have changed so much in the past year. I have brought my spirituality to another level. I have explored things that I honestly never even knew before I started this podcast. And it's just been such a fantastic outlet for me, both spiritually and creatively and just emotionally and all of the things. So intuition is my word of the year. Every year I start the year with a word of the year. Other years I've been in super decluttering mode. So I've used words like purge or elevate. And last year, my word of the year was magic. And it was truly one of the most magical years of my life. I feel like every time I create a word of the year, that word of the year really guides me. And I really am allowed to put my focus into that word and that intention. And so this year is intuition. And intuition is really what led me to even create this podcast in the first place. When I first started connecting with my spirituality, when I first started connecting with crystals, I really felt a call to do something with it. I didn't want to just connect all that just for myself and then have nowhere to share it or use it. And I wasn't really sure what avenue I wanted to do with. When I was learning my crystal healing, I wasn't sure if I just wanted to work as a healer in a one-on-one setting, or I thought maybe I can go more broad and I can do this podcast and I can become a healer to people in other ways. So that's all just expanding. I'm just at the beginning of my journey here, truthfully, and I just want to bring you along for the ride. I want you to see behind the scenes of what's going on. I'm just a mom. I'm just here in a bedroom with 25-year-old fairy wings on the wall behind me. And it's pretty cool. I want to start with a very interesting story about intuition. And it has to do with these fairy wings on the wall behind me. So I was extremely called to fairies, spirituality, crystals, magic, all of this in my younger years. When I was a freshman in college, I got very much pulled into the fairy realm, and I was just bringing in as much as I could. But things are so much different now. Our opportunity for information is so much different now. And at the time, I made these fairy wings that are on the wall behind me. I handmade them. And, when you're in your early 20s, you're out, you're partying, you're going to parties, going to raves, doing all the things. So I'd wear my fairy wings and I was so fairy fabulous. And then, time passes and I kind of lost touch with my fairiness because I went to medical school. I became a physician assistant, but I always had these fairy wings with me. I brought them across the country with me. I took them from Kansas to California, and the second year of me being in my program for physician assistant, it was Halloween, and I was going out with a friend and I wasn't sure how I could dress up. I didn't have that much time to prepare. So I dusted off my old red fairy wings and I put them on. And wouldn't you know that by trusting that intuition and wearing those fairy wings that I've always felt had like a special power to them, I met my husband that night. I didn't know that he was my husband. I didn't know that we were fated to be together from that first encounter, but it was Halloween. I was wearing fairy wings and we met, and we've been inseparable ever since then. It just went from there. And now here I am with my podcast all these years later, reconnecting to my faith, in the spiritual realm, metaphysical realm, the crystals, and I have my fairy wings on the wall behind me. And whenever I come in this room and I start my podcast and I see those fairy wings behind me, they always let me know that I'm on the right path. And even though I'm well into adulthood now, I have my own children, and sometimes it probably sounds silly to talk about fairies. It's something that I've always been extremely called to. And while I know this podcast is not really a fairy podcast, it's under the metaphysical umbrella, right? So crystals, fairies, it all kind of comes together. So that was my intuition. I always bring that back to intuition. What is intuition? Intuition is an inner knowing. It's a gut feeling. It's this subconscious wisdom. It's when you're in a moment and you either feel like, yes, this is definitely for me, or no, this is not for me. And you just have that instantaneous reaction. But oftentimes society doesn't always teach us to trust that feeling, and we push it away for so many different reasons. Maybe it's something that we just really want and we're feeling that resistance to it, but we just really want it. So we keep pushing forward towards it anyway, even though the resistance is so strong. And we often feel intuition in different ways. Some people will feel it in anxiety, right? So I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and one of the people being interviewed was just talking about how she was having so much anxiety. And after all this time and reflection and all these different things happened, she realized that it was really her intuition screaming at her that her life and things were just not going right. But it was anxiety presenting itself that way. And I think that's so true. I know for sure in my own life, there's been times where I felt such strong anxiety. I was so upset. I was so frustrated and overwhelmed, and everything in my body was screaming at me that things were not going the right direction. But I was pushing so hard for things to work because of one reason or another. And then once that element was removed from my life, things immediately changed overnight. And so it's all about developing our intuition and trusting it and knowing what the difference is between an inner knowing and having a true anxiety attack. Because some people do have anxiety disorders, and it isn't always because something isn't right in their life or whatever. I mean, it's a whole can of worms, right? We could go down so many different rabbit holes on that. But I'm just saying this because it is something that you should pay attention to. How does your body feel? Do you feel like your heart's racing? Do you feel like you're getting, are you shaking? All of those things could be your inner knowing. Or do you just feel like you know it's for you? Like you got invited to do something and you're just so excited and everything in your body is telling you that this is an amazing opportunity for you. Well, then trust that. Maybe you get invited to do some amazing opportunity where on paper it looks like it could be the most perfect match for you, but in reality, you're just feeling like something isn't off. Trust that. Trust that every time. So what can we do? How can we strengthen our intuition? How can we learn to trust it? I have a few practices that we can try that I could suggest. Sometimes it's as simple as, I'm going to say the word meditation, but I'm only saying that because I don't really know another word for it. I can't say that I'm a big meditator myself. I have a very hard time with that. It's a strength that I would love to develop, but it's just not high on my priority list right now. But I do take time to just be quiet. So maybe that is meditation, but having a moment to be quiet, maybe having a moment to do some journaling and just do like stream of conscious writing where you're just writing every thought that comes into your mind. Because sometimes our thoughts are just so all over the place. When we actually sit down and take the time to write it all out, that can be very helpful. That can be such a release to just get it all out. Just get out all that stuff that's clouding our minds and put it on a piece of paper or type it in a note and release it, and then see how you feel and then sit with what you're experiencing. Because I think that's such a beautiful way to really call into your inner knowing. Start noticing all the different synchronicities in your life. For example, I recorded an interview podcast earlier today. And before I get on my interviews and before I start the day, I often pull an oracle card or a tarot card. And today's card that I pulled was the Three of Cups. Now, to me, that was just such a moment because I was interviewing someone that not only was it a woman that I had been looking forward to for a very long time. I felt like the podcast episode was going to be kind of like a girl party. And it was so fun. And this card is all about just the joy and the girl party and coming together. And it felt like of all the cards in the deck, this was the perfect card for that interview. So really noticing those things and not just writing them off as being a coincidence or whatnot, but just really noticing them. I mean, another example is another interview that I had done the other day. The woman that I interviewed, she had a shirt on that had a rainbow on it. And when we were going through the interview, I realized I was wearing a sweatshirt that also had a rainbow on it. That is the only piece of rainbow clothing that I own. The only thing. So it was so weird. And I was thinking before I had started that interview, I'm going to change my shirt. But then something inside me said, no, I think you should wear this shirt for the interview. And it was such a synchronicity. So I think it's so fun to just start noticing those things. Start writing down all the synchronicities that you're noticing, because I will tell you, when you really start trusting your intuition, when you start tapping into the world around you, you will notice so many of those things and you will be blown away. It's so fun. It's so cool. And every time something like that happens, it just fires me up because I'm like, man, I was going through my life for so many years and I wasn't really present in it. I wasn't paying attention to these things. And once you get rolling on it, you will it will elevate you so much. You will feel so excited. I swear it has been such a game changer to just start noticing the synchronicities of things that happen. It's constant. It really is, if you're open to it. But you have to be open to it. You have to be open to letting your energy flow in and out. And then you will feel all the intuitive hits coming in. I get so many downloads throughout the day because of different little things that I'm seeing or different little things that I'm experiencing. But that's also because I have opened myself up to it. I feel very open to the universe right now. I'm very open to receiving whatever messages that are out there for me to know. And in my heart of hearts, I have to know what messages are coming in that are meant for me to be sharing with you. So as far as even my podcast episodes, it's like I'll be out on a walk or I'll be out doing something with my family and some sort of message will come through. And I think to myself, this is something that I need to talk about right away. So whether that's in my social media stories or whether I come home and I put together a podcast episode about that, I always feel like if there's things that are coming in as downloads for me, there are probably things that are coming in for you as well. I'm not a special person by any means. I'm just a regular mom. I'm just a regular person, just out there living my life, trying to live my best life. And I think that in that sense, I also want to live my most magical life. And truthfully, finding a way to live a most magical life is living a most intuitive life. And recognizing that we have gifts and we have abilities that we squash down because people say, oh, that's not true, or all that stuff is weird, or that's not okay. But that's not true. You need to trust yourself, believe in what you're feeling, believe in what the universe is sending you, because if it's true for you, it's true. If it works for you, then it works. That's it. When you're having these downloads, does your body tingle? Do you feel chills? Do you just feel like a flutter in your heart? Do you feel an excitement? I do. I feel different little sensations within my body when I know I'm on the right track or the wrong track. Always. Like, my body is very sensitive to these things. And the more that I work with them, the more sensitive that it becomes. And I love that, because then it's like I'm not wasting a bunch of time knowing whether something is for me or is not for me. It's like I get that hit. I know pretty quickly now. And, I don't waste too much time thinking about it. It's either a hell yes or an F no, and that's it. Because the more that you spend time noticing these things, it will help you build your confidence. You will start really trusting yourself so much more. And that's really what it's all about, is trusting ourselves to make the right decisions. Maybe you're someone that always makes the wrong decisions and you don't do it on purpose. You think that you're doing the right thing, but you're always picking the wrong relationships. You're always picking the wrong friends. You're always picking the wrong jobs. Maybe start sitting back and thinking to yourself, why am I doing this? Like, why does this keep happening to me? It's not really happening to you, but it's more of a lesson that you need to learn. It's a lesson of intuition. If you're always picking the wrong things, maybe the universe is trying to tell you otherwise, but you're just being stubborn and you're not wanting to hear what the universe is saying to you. Maybe you just have it in your head that you want one thing, but there's so much resistance and you're fighting against it. I've been guilty of that. We've all been guilty of that. I've been in relationships where it just did not feel right, but I kept pushing it and I kept pushing it. Maybe because we had a lot of mutual friends and it was going to be really hard to break off the relationship because we had so many friends that were tied together. Or I've had jobs that just felt they were awful, but then it just felt so overwhelming to think about trying to find a new job or trying to learn a new skill set. And yes, that is hard. And I totally understand that. But what's worse, the pain of staying in that situation or the pain of changing? Now, a lot of this intuition just can come from within ourselves and taking time to be quiet and taking time to journal our thoughts. But I like my things. I like my tools, and you don't have to have any of these, but for me, they're very helpful. And I'm going to offer 4 different things. Number 1, your tarot and oracle cards. I love my tarot and oracle cards. It's an easy practice. If you have a question on your mind, or maybe you have a series of questions on your mind, get out your deck, shuffle your cards, maybe pull 3 cards and see what the message is for you and see how that aligns with what you are trying to get clarity on. It's not always going to tell you what you want to hear, but it is going to tell you maybe what you need to hear. And it's never going to tell you anything bad. right? So I think there's a lot of misconceptions that tarot cards, oracle cards, they can predict the future, or there's some sort of, they can send you terrible messages. And I don't think that's true. I think there's nothing negative. It's just a tool to focus your intuition. And, truthfully, there are messages coming into us all the time that we don't want to hear, but maybe we do need to hear them. Maybe our behavior isn't so great. Maybe we've been acting out at our jobs and we've been kind of jerks to our coworkers, or maybe we've been jerks to our partners, or maybe we can show up as a parent in a different way. The cards can kind of help guide you down that path and help you find your strengths and your weaknesses and suggest different things to you. And it's all up to a level of interpretation, right? So when you read a deck or a card, there's no right or wrong way. It's when you see that card and then you read the meaning behind the card and then you see how that meaning can apply to your situation. I also like pendulums. Pendulums are really great for answering yes or no questions. This is an example of a pendulum. This is a beautiful labradorite pendulum. It looks black in the lighting here, but maybe you have something that you just want to get a yes or no answer of, and then you can use your pendulum and just, let it fall and see where it goes. Another thing that can be really cool and really fun that I personally don't have much experience with, but is definitely something on my list that I want to start working with this year, is scrying. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this term, but scrying is basically when you look into a bowl of water, or you look past a flame, or you look into a crystal ball, or what I have here is this beautiful black obsidian mirror. Maybe what you'll do is you'll light a candle and then you'll turn down the lights and then you'll just kind of gaze into the mirror or the bowl of water and then just kind of let your eyes relax. And what things are you seeing? What visions are you having? And let those visions come through and let those create some intuitive hits for you. It takes time. It takes practice. It's not like you're just going to sit down with your scrying mirror and then all of a sudden all this crazy stuff is going to happen. It's not like that. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe you're a very psychic person and maybe you're a very intuitive person. And the first time you sit down with it, you do get tons of things. But I think it just is one of those things that takes practice and getting used to doing it. But I got this obsidian mirror at my favorite place in San Francisco called The Sword and the Rose. And I talk about that shop all the time because they have the most magical items. So this was a little treat I got myself for my birthday this year, because I knew that it was going to be my year of intuition. Another fun thing to try doing is what we call automatic writing. And it's basically where another word of it would be like stream of conscious journaling, where you just sit down and you just start writing, just anything that comes into your mind. It doesn't have to be cohesive. You could be writing about, the dinner that you had with your family, and then all of a sudden you think, a squirrel pops into your mind, or then all of a sudden you're thinking, oh, my toe is itchy and I've got a scratch on my head and I need to take a shower and I really don't want to go to work tomorrow. And I definitely don't want to hang out with so-and-so this weekend. And I'd rather hang out with this person. And I have to do all these chores, and you just write it all down, get it all out, because then it kind of frees up your mind for everything else. I would say those are just 4 basic things that you could do to help work with your intuition. But if you don't have a journal, if you don't have any of these tools, then all you really need is yourself and just your thoughts. So I wanted to offer some crystals that are maybe a little bit lesser known for intuition. I did bring my typical labradorite because that is always the go-to for intuitive practices. But I wanted to share some other crystals that I've never really talked about on the show before. Once this show airs, when this show comes out, I'm going to do a social media post, and I will post pictures with some descriptions of some of these other crystals that I'm talking about, so that you can correlate the name to what they look like in case you feel any connection to them and you want to go out and get them. So iolite It's called the visionary stone, and it enhances inner knowing. Iolite. I don't have any, so I can't share it with you. I just showed you my labradorite palm stone. This stone is the stone of the mystic. It's another stone that's great for deepening intuition. I carry my labradorite in some form with me every single day. Dumortierite. I probably said that wrong. Dumortierite. Yeah. Dumortierite. Oh my goodness. I'm probably butchering that. Just stick with me. Hang in there. I'm sorry. It encourages psychic development, and it helps you trust in your inner guidance. Shattuckite. It supports intuitive downloads and clear messages. And then finally, dream quartz. And it enhances dream work and subconscious messages. So yeah, just stay tuned. I will post pictures. Then we will know what all these things are. And then you can tell me if I'm pronouncing these things wrong or right. But I just wanted to bring some stones that, aren't one of the top 10 to 15 stones that most people hear about all the time. And the best way to use your stones for intuition, in my opinion, is to either carry a small palm stone with you or a tumbled stone. Some people like to put their stones under their pillow. For me, that doesn't work because my bed is always wild and crazy with the kids. They'll knock things everywhere. The dog, it's a whole thing. So no, I do not put crystals under my pillow. And sometimes I think probably most people that are listening to this podcast have maybe some sort of little altar space in their home or at their desk or whatnot. And so for me, I have a little space in my kitchen that I set up as my kind of intuition altar. And so I have my particular little, either palm stones, tumble stones, all my intuitive stones, not all of them, but a lot of them kind of set up in that area so that when in the morning, when I'm having my coffee, when I'm stirring in my intention, I go over to my little altar, I do my card pull, and then I pick my stone that I'm going to stick in my pocket for the day. And that is such a fast little quick ritual, under 5 minutes, but it's such a great way to start the day and just set my intention for what it is that I'm working on. And this year I'm working on my intuition, so it's perfect for that. So I wanted to give you a little intuition candle spell that you could do. It's just a simple spell to amplify your intuition and your inner knowing. You need a few little things, but nothing complicated. I would suggest having either a blue or purple candle, whatever type of candle that is that you like. It doesn't matter what type of candle it is. You could go to the Dollar Tree and you could get either a blue or purple candle in a little jar. Whatever, it doesn't matter. It's just having that color to set that intention. Because for me, when I think of intuition, I always think of that in the sense of a color. And I think a lot of that is just because I'm always carrying around my labradorite, which just has this distinct dark blue, purple, green color. So I always think of intuition in that sense. Maybe that's just me. So you'll have your blue or purple candle, which is kind of a symbol of intuition and psychic development. And then you can have your piece of labradorite or iolite. And then if you have access to either mugwort or lavender, you can have that with you as well, but that's optional. That's just kind of to enhance everything. And then just a journal and a pen. So what you'll want to do is kind of just cleanse your space first. You can use incense, you can use Palo Santo, you could use some cleansing herbs, or just sound. You could get a bell. You can just, ring a bell and that will clear your space, or just play some music. And you'll want to hold the candle in your hands and set your intention. And you can just say, I trust my intuition. I am open to divine guidance. And you could take your little candle and you could carve something into it. You could carve a sigil. You could carve a word, a symbol, whatever you think of when you are considering tapping into your intuitive practices. Maybe there's just a little symbol that you like of whatever reason. Just you could put that on the candle. And if you don't really want to carve anything into the candle, you don't have to. So then you'll have your little candle. You'll put your crystal near the candle, and then you can sprinkle a little bit of the mugwort or lavender onto the candle. And then you can just light the candle and then just kind of look into the flame and then allow your intuitive messages to come through. And while you're doing that, then just start journaling. What are you thinking? What visions are you having? What feelings are arising? And you can let this go on for a couple minutes or as long as you like. Some people want to if it's a little small tapered candle, maybe they just want to sit there until the whole candle burns through like in an hour, or maybe you only have a couple minutes to do this spell. It's okay. And you can just keep saying that little, I trust my intuition. I am open to divine guidance. You can just keep saying that if you're having a hard time letting things come through. And then when you're ready, you just put out the candle and that's it. So I think that is such an easy, simple, beautiful practice. And it's a great way to just take a moment to tap into your intuition. And, intuition is something that requires practice. It is kind of like a muscle. You have to learn to trust it though, more than anything. And I would definitely encourage you to try the candle spell. Maybe try getting a tarot deck or an oracle deck and just pulling cards. Don't feel pressured that you have to learn all the cards. Most decks come with a little booklet that tells you kind of the generalized meaning of each card. And then as you work with them, you will develop your own more personal meanings with each card. So, having your crystals around can also help enhance that. And I would love it if you do any of these things. Please share it with me on social media. I would love to hear if you tried this candle spell and what kind of downloads you got and if you got any insights, because I think it's just a beautiful little practice. There's nothing scary about it. It's just having that beautiful moment for yourself. Because I don't know if you're like me, but life is so busy all the time, especially with my kids, and I'm running a million miles a minute. And today is my day off from work. But yeah, I'm still working, but in a way that I like. And, honestly, today I'm going to do the intuition candle spell because it feels like it's just something that I need to do. And I just want to build up this practice more and more and more for myself, because I know that if I become a more thoughtful and intuitive person, of course it's going to help me, but I feel like it's also going to help my family and the way that I interact with my husband and my children and my friends. And I'm just interested to see where this journey goes. So just remember, you are a magical person. Everybody on this planet is a magical person in some sense, or at least they have that ability inside themselves. Intuition isn't something that's outside of you. It's been within you all along. It's waiting for you to listen, whether you tune in through your tarot or scrying or just even a simple gut feeling or the quiet flicker of a candle. Trust your inner wisdom is guiding you exactly where you need to go. The more you honor it, the stronger it becomes. Keep embracing your magic. Keep listening. And most importantly, keep showing up as your most authentic self. The world needs your unique energy. And on that note, bye. Have a beautiful week, my friends. Have a beautiful week. Bye. Thank you so much for jumping down the rabbit hole with me. If you connected with this episode in any way, I would love it if you could share it with a friend. Also, please tag me on social media. I'm at mystical.mama.ash or at Big Crystal Energy Podcast, mostly on Instagram. It helps so much getting my episodes out there and finding more magical, kooky, and spooky friends. Sending you all Big Crystal Energy. Cheers!